can you make distinction between different kind of IPs, then you will be a little confused regarding that. So I think that it would be a good idea to start afresh by delivering 2 lectures or 3 lectures, or giving you the basic understanding of IP. So what do you think about that? Should I do that?
Yes, sir, definitely, sir.
Okay. So first, I will explain you the syllabus. What is the syllabus? What you have to study in this very semester, and then I will be catching up the fundamentals of IP. Okay. So I will circulate it, or they may upload it. They were saying, this faculty authorities were saying that they will be uploading the new case material on the website, and if they are doing that, then that is okay. Otherwise, I will circulate you in private. Okay. So your intellectual property syllabus for this very semester is divided into, you can say, one, two, three, four, 5 parts. Okay.
Yes, sir.
um, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So the first part and the most significant part which you have to study is copyright. And copyright is divided into different, you can say, chapters, like subject matter of copyright, then what are the rights in respect of what kind of works, and then authorship, ownership, and exploitation of copyright, and then infringement of copyright and exceptions to infringement. And last part is a right related to copyright. So moral right, economic right, right to reproduction, many things are there which has been included into that. Next, you have to study patent law, where introduction to patent law is there, where you will be dealing with meaning, concept, and many other things. What is the object of patent law and similar kind of things. And then you have patentability criteria in India. We are here concerned more on Indian perspective because we are not that much catching up the international dimension. But yes, international dimension has significant implication on any nation. So India is not an exception. So to that extent, we will be grabbing that what kind of uh, you can say implication India received because of international patent regime. So that we will be discussing in brief. So, in Indian patent law, we will be starting with the introduction of patent law, then patentability criteria in India, which may include patentable subject matter, novelty, inventive step, industrial applicability, and a little bit of procedure for filing patent application, which may also include request for examination and all that. So, very briefly, we will be touching that how can you proceed with your patent application. Then the most important segment of any IP is licensing, and in case of patent, it is very much relevant. So licensing of patent we will be discussing, including voluntary licensing, compulsory licensing, and standard essential patents and friend licensing, which is a new phenomenon. So we'll be touching upon that also because we have to remain updated. Then last segment is right of patentee and patent infringement. So that will be catching up. Third part is related to law of plant varieties and farmers rights act. So as you know, this is a special legislation which has been created through sui generis system, where we have evolved our own system to protect the plant varieties. So there is some sort of overlapping between patents and plant varieties when it comes to the protection. So that we will be dealing it, but this part is not that much exhaustive as the previous two. So copyright and patent will be dealt at length, and these will be dealt in a particular context. So law of plant variety and farmers rights act you have to study, and after that you have to study confidential information, or which also is known as trade secret law. That is becoming very important in today's world, because as you know, trade secret is a kind of an automatic protection where you don't need to apply so many things and wait for so long. So it would be protected in no time. So there are many research based things which you can protect if it has a trade value without disclosing it. So it's a strategic kind of decision which one can make. So confidential information or trade secret law because it is becoming so important, so we will be dealing with that also. And lastly, we have to deal with introduction to traditional knowledge and folklore, international treaties. So, what are the different treaties and what are the you can say special provisions which are being provided for traditional knowledge and folklore that we will be discussing. So I hope that you have a kind of overview about your syllabus. So there are 5 segments. First one is copyright, second one is patent, third one is plant variety, fourth one is trade secret, and the last one is, what was that? Traditional knowledge and folklore. So it is very elaborative syllabus. So you may be a little bit taken aback that how can I cover all these things within a given time. So that is not a problem because we will be catching up. This is elaborative because we have specified the section, special sections for you, so that you must be very very clear that what we are going to discuss. Is that clear to everyone? Should I proceed?
Sir, can you also give us the marks breakup for
Yeah, the marks
like
breakup. Yes, the marks breakup. I cannot. I mean, guarantee that this would be the allocation. It depends when your exam is approaching. We do have a meeting, and after that very meeting, we think that what should be the appropriate marking for that portion. But roughly, I can tell you that copyright would be the heaviest, or you can say the largest segment of the of your syllabus. So for example, if you're taking like 30-35% for that, then 20-25% for patent also. So or more than that, you can say 35 to 40% for this very copyright and 25 to 30% for patents. So this is there. And then uh, the other segments, 10 to 15% or whatever you can say for the plant varieties, and then likewise 10% for other segments. So other segments are not that much, I mean, they have not been provided that much weightage. But for the sake of your understanding and learning, you must not leave any portion. When it comes to the strategic choice for the examination, then you can just prioritize what would be more, I mean, understandable to you, or what would be more catchy to you. Then you can just go or move accordingly. Okay.
yes, sir.
So which of
Yeah.
so which barracks we have to refer?
Yeah, you have to refer to at least, I mean, in copyright and patent, if you take it, the separate Bear Act would be provided for, I mean, Plant Variety Act, because there is two kind of Bear Act. One is clubbing every intellectual property. You may either buy that, so it would be handy for any sort of intellectual property, or you can purchase it individually also, like patents or copyright or Plant Variety Act individually. So depending upon your convenience, I'm not, I mean, putting that much emphasis. But what I do that if you buy it separately, then you have a more, you can say, handy kind of, Bear Act, which would be in bold letter, I mean, little larger, you can say, composition, which you can easily grab. So whatever suits you, you can do that. So for three portions, there are Bear Acts. What are those? In patent, copyright, and plant variety. But the other two portions, I will send you articles and other, I mean, materials where you can just grab it. So for trade secret, there is no as such any law, codified law. It has been dealt by uncodified laws, like common law. So it is more based upon the some literature rather than Bear Act. So in that case, I will be providing you that. The last part is because it is dealing with treaties. So these treaties could be found in on WIPO website, but I will find it out for you and I will send it to you. I think that would be not a great problem for you. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
No. Okay. So when we start our discussion, we have to catch up our case laws also, which has been given in the case mat. But because we are initially dealing with the fundamentals. So first we will understand the concepts. So it may be possible I will take all the methods of teaching. So it may be sometimes I will be using PPT, sometimes I will not be using PPT, just going by Where At, and whatever convenient for me also, because I am also overloaded with the work. So if I don't find that much time to make PPTs or something, I will just go through my own method. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
yeah. So let's start with this very one PPT I have just presented somewhere. So I'm just sharing icon will do the neat. How can I share? Can you suggest me something?
So share
I
with
think you
Google.
should have to click the three dots and then share the screen if you have it on your screen already.
Yes, three dots. Okay. First of all, I must display it, and then where is that? Where is your?
Sir, if you are online via laptop or computer, you can press on the present now button.
Yeah, that is what I am asking. So present now. I have just clicked. Is it there? Is it showing? No.
No, sir.
No, sir. Not yet.
Okay. Give me a second. So present now. Now your entire scheme. This is this thing. Is there any other method, or I will just proceed with my own?
Sir, are you online through your phone or your laptop?
Just a second. I'm just coming.
Yes.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What you're saying? I am
Sir,
on
are
the
you
laptop.
online through?
I am on the laptop. I am online with you, and there is one file which PPT which I just want to share. So, what is the option?
Sir, I think you'll have to share your screen. So there'll be an option of sharing the screen.
That is there. Your entire screen. That is what you are saying.
Yeah, sir, I think so.
So, I have just clicked it. It is showing this thing. Hmm?
So then I don't know. So it was supposed to be like that only.
Hmm.
If anybody else knows, please.
Hmm. Any other thought? Or I?
So is it a PPT?
Yes.
Then you can select present a window.
Present a window. Where?
So on the present option, present now option, there is the second option.
Okay. Present now. Present a window. Okay. Then.
Okay, then you can switch to whichever window for this matter is Microsoft PowerPoint. But is it still isn't showing?
Hmm. It's not showing. So why? Hmm. So let's then I will just give you orally what is there. Then I will find it out how to share. And it's not visible to me. Or in between, if you can find out, you will just tell me. Okay? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because we will be wasting too much time for searching that. This is the PPT, and Why it is not showing, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's start with the concept of IP. Uh, why it is important, why we are discussing it, and what is the nature of it, and everything. So, if you go by the terminology, intellectual property, then you will be finding that property which is being attached with the term intellectual. I'm just giving you very, you can say, brief and very basic connotations of IP. So if you go by that very term, intellectual property, and fragmentize it, you will find that there are two portions, intellectual and property. So property, first you have to understand what is property. So property is being defined differently by different scholars. Some defined it by attaching it with ownership, like it is a kind of res. Res means subject matter. A kind of res over which intellectual exercise or effort is being made. So that is intellectual property. And simply what is property? Any res, any subject matter over which ownership right is being exercised. So that is one definition of property. Property is a kind of subject matter over which an ownership right is being exercised. And some say that it is a bundle of right. Property is nothing but a bundle of right, and those rights may be explained in that manner, like if you can say right to own the property, right to assign the property, right to license the property. So there are so many rights which are being accommodated to give that picture of property. So this is a very classical definition of property which has been made by various scholars. So what happened, like at that point of time when we are discussing these definitions, intangible properties were not taken that momentum as you see in current world. So their main focus was on physical property, a property which could be seen, which could be perceived, that has been taken into account. So there are various theories of property also. Like if you start with the theories like Locke's theory of property, then you have Hegel's personality theory, then many other theories, utilitarian theory, they give a kind of hold to any person who is owner of that very thing. So for example, I will discuss it at length when we will be discussing the theoretical premise, but you must understand that what was the Locke's labor theory? Locke said that if there is a commons, that is not owned by anyone, anything which is in commons, then any person by making an effort, if he is making it valuable, then he has all the right to own that very property. Why? Because he has made his effort, that is why it is justified that he must own it. So this is a kind of theory which has been given there. When it comes to Hegel, Hegel says that whatever a person does, he own it because of extension of his personality, because that is automatically extended to grab that very thing which is being a kind of, you can say, effort which has been made by that very person. So it means to say it is imbibed in that very personality and it could be extended to own it. So now I am giving you a very contemporary example. So nowadays you must have, I think, heard about a monkey copyright case. Where selfie case, where there was in jungle, there was a photographer who was shooting, various sites there, and he left his camera for a moment. So there was a chimpanzee who came and who clicked that very photo without knowing anything about the technology, and that selfie was, pictured, or you can say grasped by that very camera. So it was a very, rare picture. So that has a very much commercial value and all that. So the photographer was trying to, assert his own right over that very subject matter which has been created by that very monkey. In that very, sense that the author of any photograph is being considered that very person. Who has clicked that very photograph. So if you apply that very analogy to this very monkey selfie, then that will belong to that very chimpanzee. So the question was that who owns that very copyright? So there was various, arguments, and now things have been clear because in some jurisdiction, it has been made clear that because copyright is being given only to natural person, human being, so that is why it could not be, entertained by any other. But it is not that simple because when it comes to ownership, you must understand that there are some countries which have given citizenship to even AI, robot, and one of the country is Saudi Arabia. So there, if you are giving citizenship to that very creature which is being created by a human being, then there may be more complexities as we usually don't see. So why I'm citing you this very example, because you can connect the classic theory to assert the ownership right in this very sense. So how? So suppose you have created an AI, and AI has created something else which was not anticipated by you. You have not, figured it in, configured it in that very way that this very task, this very AI would perform. But because of that very intelligentsia which you built through various mechanisms, some things it can do on its own, some decisions it can take on its own. That is why we attach the term artificial intelligence. So if you apply the Hegel's theory, that whether who has that very, right, ownership right over that very uh, thing which has been created by AI. So if you apply Hegel's personality theory, you will find that it is nothing but the extension of that very personality who has created it first for the first time. So that analogy is also on to define the ownership conundrum of contemporary world. So this is a one interesting example where you can see that theories are still valid and they are still relevant when we define intellectual property. So I was just, elaborating upon that various scholars have defined various theories and then attached this to the intellectual property. So what Locke's theory has done, that was about the physical property, whether it could be applied in the same way to the intellectual property or whether it could be used as a justification of our intellectual property, that we have to see, we have to learn. So you must understand intellectual property means those properties which are an outcome of intellectual effort, number one. So what are those intellectual efforts? They may be of any kind. So for example, you may have applied your artistic effort to create something artistic. You may have applied human intervention to transform something which is already existing. So you have converted discovery into invention by your human intervention, human effort. That effort may also be considered as intellectual property. So these are the various, kind of efforts which could be included under the realm of intellectual property. So that is why you are saying so many kinds of intellectual property. Like patents is there for invention, copyright is there for creative work, artistic work, musical work, and so on and so forth. Essentially, it covers the form of expression which could be in various ways. Then you will find that there is a trademark, and in trademark there is a peculiar mark which is being just attached to that very good, so that and that very selection of mark is very much an intellectual choice of that very trademark holder. That is why there is some sort of intellectual intent in that also, and because of that it is considered under the umbrella of intellectual property. So this is the case why it has been considered intellectual property. The other thing is design. In design also you create something like you create in the case of copyright, but the distinction is that in design it must have an industrial value. When I say industrial value, it means to say that it must be produced on mass scale. Because you might have heard about the various small scale industries where many things are not done by machine but by manually also. So it doesn't mean only machine and mechanical work when you decide what is industrially applicable or industrially valuable or not, but the only criteria is that its replication must be there. I mean, once you created, it is not like that it is created for one time. So if it has a repetitive value and you can create it on a mass scale, then that very property could be considered as industrial property or intellectual property. So industrial design have some sort of connections, close resemblance with copyright, but some distinction also when you define the purpose of industrial design. So I am coming to that, but first of all, you must know how many kind of IPRs we are now looking at in today's world. So there was design also. Apart from design, you might have, I have just explained to you trade secrets also because of their trade value. Then you do have layout design of integrated circuits and geographical indication, which is a, you can say, new entrant in the realm of intellectual property. So now it is being considered and discussed worldwide because it is very important, intellectual property for developing countries mostly. So that is also a new dimension to intellectual property. So this is the way how intellectual property has been developed. So when I come to concept, intellectual property means those properties which are backed by intellectual efforts. And in those intellectual properties, there are some which are being restricted to a limited time period. There are others which are available to you perpetually, but subject to certain conditions. So that I will be dealing with. So I hope that you must have understand that very thing. And the other thing is that you have to also look at the origin and development of various kind of intellectual property.
So the video has frozen. There's some power issue at Sir's place, so he'll just join us shortly.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
What is happening today? I mean, never this kind of thing. I mean, the power failure. So I'm so sorry for that. So these things will come. I mean, these glitches will always be on in online teaching, as you know. Okay. So we will be just catching up 10 minutes more, then I will be leave you. I will be leaving you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we start, I mean, you have grabbed the concept, I hope, and when you have to clarify that how this has emerged and how it has been expanded, then you have to look into the history. So I'm just briefly giving you a kind of glimpse that how various intellectual property rights have evolved. So if you take example of various intellectual property rights, there are some conventional intellectual property rights, some are very new or unconventional. So, or you can say some are classical and some are modern. So, those which were classical have also acquired some modern shape. But as you regard it in terms of time, then there are four intellectual property rights which were prevalent previously. So, what were those? So, number one was patents, then copyright, then trademark, and lastly, industrial design. So for the sake of clarity and for the sake of remembering, if you remember like this, that there are 4 intellectual property rights which have already been evolved, and the 3 or 4 have been created in due course of time, then you can easily figure it out that what are the various intellectual property rights which are provided under TRIPS agreement also. So if you go by these 4 traditional intellectual property rights, then copyright, you have to start with copyright, and in copyright, authorly works were not claimed as a commercial, you can say, work, because in those days sharing was the key. So people were more concerned about their recognition rather than their commercial value of their artistic work or creative work. So because of that, and there were certain incentive systems which support those kind of work. So because of that, they didn't need that there must be some sort of exclusive right which could be provided to them. So why it has become a kind of property, you have to look into. So the reason behind that was there were 2 parallel things which were going on. One was the industrial developments which were taking care of, taking place in Europe and other parts of the world. So because of that very industrialization, these subject matters which were created under the realm of copyright have attained a kind of commercial potential. So it was but obvious that those people who were doing these kind of stuffs have been interested that it must be exploited commercially. So if you take the example of printing press, which was evolved somewhere in China or something, and then it has been modernized or advanced in UK and many other countries. So when printing press was invented, so in that very case, your manuscript which you write in limited number of pages, that has provided a kind of, you can say, scope where you can create many copies of that very manuscript. So because of that, there was a huge commercial potential which was attached with copyright, and the copyright owners and printing press owners, they try to assert their rights. So initially it has been given to those people who have that very printing press or something, and they own that kind of stuff which is being replicated, and likewise by crediting the author or something. But after that, when it has created that kind of potential, individual writers were also interested in monopolizing their work or making it exclusive to themselves. So this wave has affected, number one, the technical wave. Second wave was the wave of capitalism, because everybody was trying to propertize his or her stuff. So because of that also, the second wave coupled with the first wave has created this kind of a scope for intellectual property rights for copyright. So this has pervasive all over the Europe and many other countries. So this is because the commercial angle of intellectual property or exclusivity of intellectual property has been established. The other 3, when we discuss about that, they are more about the industrial products. So there was a clear division between these 2 rights. One is clubbed as industrial property rights, and the other one is only intellectual property rights. So under the intellectual property domain, copyright was placed, because at that very moment, that kind of industrialization was not there in that very realm. Much work was done by the authors. So now we see in copyright domain, there are so many industrial, happenings are there. Like if you take the example of databases, or you can take the example of software developers. There are so many companies which are involved. So this was not the case at that very moment. So because there was an intellectual effort rather than industrial exercise, that is why copyright was restricted to the domain of intellectual property, while other 3 intellectual properties, which were termed as industrial property, were patent, trademark, and industrial design. So as you know, why patent has been clubbed there, why copyright has not been placed there. So the clear distinction was in the fact that you cannot presume patent unless and until it has a technical value or commercial value in industry. So a patent without functionality cannot be presumed. And one of the main criteria for patenting is industrial applicability. Yes,
So
if
can
you
you
have.
please repeat this classification once?
Okay, there are two important classification in the old world. I'm not talking about in the present world. In the old world, which was dominated by four. Is that gettable? Copyright.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the copyright was categorized under the domain of intellectual property. Got it? On the other
Yes,
hand,
sir.
all the other three were clubbed under industrial property. And what was the reason I have just cited? Because in copyright, at that very moment, it was mainly attributed to the authors or creators. Okay, so it has
Okay,
not
sir.
that kind of industrial value or industrial, you can say, inclination as you see in present world. So that is why it was termed as intellectual property. On the
Okay,
other
sir.
hand, patent, trademark, and industrial design, they were closely associated with the industrial activities. So that is why they were clubbed under industrial property. So I'm just giving you that example that patent you cannot give patent for an invention which have no industrial applicability. This is a clear rule. This is the clear criteria. So because of that, for patent you need technology, and technology which has that very industrial value, that is being considered. So that is why at that very moment it was considered industrial property. Coming to trademark, as you know, at that very moment so many goods were produced on a mass scale in industries. So because of that also, that very character of industrial phenomena was attached to trademark too. So that is why it was clubbed under industrial property. On the other hand, the last one, that is design. Design is also prefixed by the term industry. So we are not considering any design. We are considering those designs which have industrial applicability. So because of that, that very industrial design was clubbed under the industrial property. So I hope that this distinction is clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So within 5 minutes, because I have back-to-back classes. So after that, what happened? Like when we moved on from that very stage, then there was a very important convention which you always remember. That is WIPO Convention 1967. That is the very important one, because there were certain efforts to grab these intellectual properties for international regime that I will be discussing in the next lecture, that is Paris Convention for patents, Berne Convention for copyright, and some classification treaties for design. So these things, Madrid Treaty for Design or Madrid Classification System for Design, so these were there. So some international efforts have been made to grab these kind of properties, but what is intellectual property has not been defined in a unified manner. That is still not defined, but that has been categorized, exemplified, that these are the intellectual property rights. So that has been done through this very WIPO Convention 1967. You all are knowing what is WIPO? Okay,
Yes, sir.
what's that?
World Intellectual Property Organization.
What is the other organization which is dealing with intellectual property? World Trade Organization, WTO, where you take care of the enforcement issue at the international level. So this very WIPO, World Intellectual Property Right, is the dedicated and specified organization for the administration of intellectual property rights. So this has classified under Article 2 that what are the activities which could be considered as intellectual property. So they have given a list under Article 2. Okay, so you can visit it, or I will send you the document, then you will see. So there only these illustrations were there, that artistic work, creative work, inventive work, these are the works which could be considered an intellectual property. So the main contribution of this very treaty, that is WIPO Convention 1967, was that it has diminished the division between intellectual property and industrial property, and it has put all these activities under one umbrella, that is intellectual property. So now when you discuss about patent or copyright or trademark or anything which have some sort of intellectual effort, irrespective of the fact of that very thing, where we club it like industrial or something like that, now every activity is unified under one umbrella, and that is known as intellectual property. And rights related to those stuffs or subject matters are termed as intellectual property rights. So I hope that we have discussed till this time, and then we will be grabbing a little bit of this very development, that how it has taken place in GATT negotiation, and how it has been transformed in a kind of treaty that is termed as TRIPS agreement, that is trade related agreement on trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, and what kind of impact it has generated on the national patent regime. So then you will be very clear that how intellectual property has been evolved and came to the present state. So if you follow that discussion, that is very important also. I think that you must have a clear understanding that how it evolves. So history is very important in every context, in every law also. So to find out the ultimate objective of a particular subject. So here also we are not going that much extensive, but we must be grabbing what are the peculiar things which contributed to give the shape of IP in present form. So I hope that is very much required also on my part, and I must give you a clear understanding of IP rather than just providing the subject matter or whatever content is being just floating in your syllabus or something. So my attempt would be that it may be interactive at some times because you are more in number, but I can make it convenient that we could discuss it, and then I must ask you to think over it, over various aspects of IP, so that you will have that kind of clarity when you go and talk to other people. You can easily make them understand that what you have learned. Okay, is that
Yes, sir.
okay?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
try to be disciplined in the class, because as you know, I know that it is a teasing kind of effect for everyone, for students, for teachers, and for everyone. But as you know, this is a very, very alarming situation where we have also be like a warrior. We should find out our ways. So in that way, whatever capacity or whatever assignment you have been provided with, you must do it in that manner, because you cannot just complain that this thing is not happening, that thing is not happening, because just complaining is not a solution. So we'll try to find out. The glitches would be there would be many other problems, PowerPoint, something like that. But if we are eager to learn, and I am eager to deliver, then that would not be a great problem, I hope. Okay,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
so I think that you are finding it interesting, the discussion.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will send you some materials also, or I will find it out. So okay, regularly I will be sending something. So thank you
All
for
right,
this
sir.
very class.
Thank you,
And
sir.
Thank you, sir.
okay, where I have to leave, where is the option? I am very
So in the
So you have to
naive,
end the call.
in the call.
naive to this. So stop recording. This is end the call. Where is the
Red
option?
So there's a red button in the middle of the screen.
There'll be a red button on the screen, right on the screen.
Right on the screen.
सर नीचे थोड़ा सा होगा.
जो कॉल वाला बटन लग रहा है, हाँ ठीक है.
हाँ.
दरअसल आई वाज यूजिंग जूम मोड ना, जूम पे ज्यादा मैं काम किया हूँ, तो इस पे थोड़ा सा लग गया. ठीक है, थैंक यू सो मच.
Also, sir, can you please send us the link for the recorded lecture?
ये तो तुम्हारा अच्छा, इसमें भेज देंगे, हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. आई विल बी सेंडिंग यू. लेकिन अब रिकॉर्डिंग लेक्चर के चक्कर में तुम क्लासेस मत मिस करने लगना कि नहीं भाई, रिकॉर्डिंग तो मिल ही जाएगी. ओके.
No, sir, it's for other people who couldn't join.
हाँ. I am always a believer of open sharing. I am doing some stuff for an international journal on open source bio. So it is embedded in me to share more and more. तो मेरी तरफ से कोई दिक्कत नहीं है तुम लोगों को. जो भी शेयर कर सकता हूँ मैं कर दूंगा. बस ये है कि you should be disciplined enough to attend the classes, because there is no alternate to the classes. क्योंकि कोई चीज spur of the moment आती है, तुम डिस्कस करते हो, that is more stable in your mind रादर देन जब एक बार रिकॉर्ड हो जाएगा ना तो सोचो कि चलो देख लेंगे, जो आएगा देखते जाएंगे। जैसे हम बुक्स खरीदते हैं तो क्या करते हैं, पहले दिन बड़ा एक्साइटमेंट रहता है, फिर वो कोने में पड़ी होती है, कभी उठाने का मौका नहीं मिलता। सो डोंट बी इन दैट बोट, अदरवाइज एवरीथिंग इज ओके। ओके
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
ओके, ऑल द बेस्ट, थैंक यू।